Ionic bonds. So an ionic bond is an attractive force between two ions of opposite charge. So remember, our ions are atoms or groups of atoms that have a net charge to them because they have unequal numbers of protons and electrons. Okay, so for example, here we have a sodium ion with a +1 charge. We have a chloride ion with a -1 charge, so we put those together and you end up with sodium chloride. So our example over here, we take the electron away from sodium, we give that to chlorine, and then we end up with sodium chloride here. So it's not sharing these electrons. Sodium has lost an electron, chlorine has gained an electron. So the sodium has a +1 charge, the chloride now has a -1 charge. When you're writing these formulas, the positive ion always goes first, and it's usually a metal. So sodium is a metal. Positive ions balance out negative ions. So the net charge, or the net electric charge, is 0. So it's always neutral. So these have to balance each other out. So if we do that with our sodium chloride, +1, -1, we have a 0 net charge. And compounds formed by ions are called ionic compounds. And a lot of ionic compounds also are called salts. Not all of them, but a lot of ionic compounds are also considered salts. So even though sodium chloride is table salt, there are other types of salt, like, for example, magnesium sulfate is Epsom salt. So achieving neutral charges. So in sodium chloride, there are as many positive sodium ions as there are negative chloride ions. So positive and negative charges cancel out. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. There's one sodium ion for every chloride ion. Magnesium oxide combines in a similar manner, even though our magnesium ion is a +2 and our oxide ion is a -2. But those still cancel out. +2 and a -2 equals 0. So equal numbers of magnesium ions and oxide ions will produce a neutral compound. It's still a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, these are not always 1-to-1. So for example, if I have sodium and I have oxide or oxygen, those combine in a 2-to-1 ratio. So I have to have 2 sodium ions for every 1 oxide ion, because this is +2 now, this is -2, so that basically becomes 0 for our net charge. Magnesium chloride combines in a 1-to-2 ratio. So I have 1 magnesium for every 2 chlorides. And again, our formulas show this. So here I have 2 sodiums, I only have 1 oxygen. Here I have 1 magnesium, I have 2 chlorines. And then something like aluminum oxide, so aluminum and oxygen will combine in a 2-to-3 ratio. So you end up with Al2O3. So I have 2 aluminums for every 3 oxygens. And the way that kind of works out is, if you think about it, if I have 2 aluminums, well, 2 times 3 is +6. If I have 3 oxides, well, 3 times -2 is -6. So if I add those together, I get a 0 charge.